Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Bruchim Haba. We're continuing in Mishna Berura Daf Hashavua, and we are up to Siman Tzadi. We're in middle of Sif Yud Ches. In Sif Yud Ches, Rama says, and this is something the Rama brings in a number of places, that first Rama says, some say even if you don't have a minyan, it's better to daven in a base medrash hakavua if it's Tairasim Nasai, and you're not misbatel otherwise. Even though we said that nowadays there's no Tairasa Nasai, for this there is. In other words, there's no Tairasa Nasai to exempt you from davening, but to say that a base medrash might be preferable, there may be a din of Tairasa Nasai bizman hazeh, but you shouldn't get in the habit of doing this so that Amei Aretz don't learn from you, and they'll be misbatel from coming to Shul. Then the Rama says, you should not be learning when the tzibur is saying slichais, tchinais, in general. So let's say you're in Shul and they're saying l'chadoidi. So you know who I learned? I learned Reb Chaim's with Reb Velvel. Very good for you. But you still have to say Kabbalah Shabbos, and you can't be learning during davening. Zman Torah l'chad, Zman Tefillah l'chad. Okay.
Because it's Beit Knesset, it says Beit Knesset. Is that dafka, or it means even the Beit Medrash?
The point is that the base. You mean is the din that Amei Aretz are going to learn from you only in the Beit Knesset? Does that? I'm not sure. You know, there's an idea that Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky says, in many places they like to do a Hoicha Shemana Esrei. They make a short Shemana Esrei where basically the Chazan starts before the Tzibur. He says the first three brachas with Kedusha, and then the Tzibur says it. So people think, you could do that. I could do that at work. You can't do it at work. You can't do it in Great Adventures. You can't do it anywhere. So why do they do it in yeshivas? So Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky said that they were masakin chazar sashatz for Amei Aretz, but in a makam limud where there's no Amei Aretz, they were not masakin chazar sashatz. That's the svara of being able to ahoicha shmasa. Like in our yeshiva in Chavetz Chaim, they do that for mincha. I don't think they do it in Lakewood. But the rationale to do it is not because of bittul Torah or you're pressed for time. There's no heter to do it for bittul Torah. There's no heter to do it because you're pressed for time. The heter to do it is because they're masaking it for Amei Aretz, and in a yeshiva, maybe it was never niskan. So maybe there's a chilik between a Beis HaKnesses and a Beis HaMedrash. I'm not sure how much we could put on that. The Mishnah says, also you can learn Ayin Sim Kuf Naveis. Let's say you already davened. Let's say basically like this: you already daven, and now you have a seder to answer. And while you're learning there, or while you're hanging around there, you want to chap some amains, kaddish, and kedusha from those who are purest al shema, or their chayzer the tefillah, oisha chayzim kol tefillah, or for the chazos hashatz, oisik b'tar bein choshesh. You're allowed to learn, and there's no problem. In other words, if you already davened, it's not an issue. It's when you're being parish from the tzibur, because this is your tzibur, but if it's not your tzibur, it's not an issue. What if you're learning in a shul? Do you need to answer Amen? What if you're engrossed in your learning and you hear a bracha, the Eish Avram Buchach is mekel that you're not chayiv to answer Amen, but he's nishar b'tzarchi. And the Pischei Tshuva brings from Shas Tshuva's Divrei David that when you're learning Torah, you don't have to answer Amen. But the Pischei Tshuva argues on him. He says you are chayiv. The Rav Shlomo Zalman says you're pater from Amen, you're pater from Amen Yesh Me'Rabba, but you should answer Kedusha, Baruch Hu, and Moedim. So I would have asked, what do you mean? Amen Yesh Me'Rabba perhaps is greater than Kedusha. He says, no, it's a matter of being nicker. it's nicker if you don't join with them when they say Kedusha or Baruch Hu Moedim. But if you don't answer Amen Hishmei Rabbah, people can't necessarily tell. Likewise, Berchas Kainim, you should be mafsik. But you should not be mafsik Talmud Torah derabim. In other words, if you're middle of a shir and somebody says Baruch Hu or Kedusha, you don't stop. Okay. Reb Moshe says that if you hear Yud Gimel Midos, you need to stop, even if you're learning Barabim. Even Talmud Torah Barabim, you would have to stop for Yud Gimel Midos. So if you test, Yikba Makom L'Tfilasai, you should establish a place for your tefillah, Shelo Yishaneu Imlay L'Tzarech, that you don't change it unless there's a need. Ve'ein dai b'mashik v'loi beis haknesses. So it's not enough to have a set shul, ela gam b'beis haknesses shekavua ba tzarech sheyeh loi makom kavua. Even in your regular shul, you need to have a set spot. Why? He says in Mishnah, Yikba Makom shekem matzin ba'Avram Avinu shekava makom l'tfilah. So Avram Avinu was kovea makom l'tfilah. By the way, in Siman Tzadi Chesed Daled, a different reason is given. Tefillah is l'makom carbon, and therefore it has to be standing like the avoda, and you have to have kviyas makom like karbonos. So the Bach says the Iker tam for standing kviyas makom we learn out from Avram Avinu, but a person needs to mechavein b'tfilasai that all of the halacha should be k'may carbon. I mean, l'chayra, it's totally on the two approaches in the Gemara. A tefillah is keneged avos tiknam, or a tefillah is keneged karbanos tiknam. If they're keneged avos, the Indian of kviyas makom and amida is keneged Avram Avinu. If it's keneged karbanos, then it's keneged kviyas makom by karbanos. Okay. Now, the din of kviyas makom, is it for the whole davening? The Dirshu brings from the Teiras Chaim that it's only for Shemona Esrei. And that's what's mashma in the Yerushalmi, Rabbi Yoina, and the Torah is mashma even from Sukkot Zimra and the rest of the Tefillah. What about Kviyas Makom L'Limod? Mishnah brings in Siman Kuf Nun Hey, you should have a Kviyas Makom L'Limod. Now let's say I make a place to daven. Do I have to stay there my whole life? No. The Eish Avram says even Avram Avinu, he didn't go back to that spot. The Pri Megadim says, let's say you go to a bungalow. So okay, fine. So you have a kviyas in one place, or let's say in the summer the sun is shining in through the window on one side. Could you switch? You could switch. What if, in order to be kaivei makom, you're going to have to skip part of Sukkot Zimra? It's kviyus makom has adifus over even skipping part of Sukkot Zimra. Weiter. Kedachsiv ayashkim Abraham ba'boiker l'makom asher amad shamas pnei Hashem v'goymer v'gam kishmasal b'beisai. Even when you daven at home, yikba makom, you should have a set spot. If for whatever reason you need to daven at home, you should have a set spot in the house. Shelo yivalbelu b'nei abayis, that the people don't disturb you. Makom kavua v'toich arba amos chashem makom echad. If a guy is sitting in your seat, but you're still within dalet amos, so he's not really in your spot. It's all one makom diyef shalat samtzem, because it would be impossible to precisely confine to the exact spot. Sif chaf. This comes from the Gemara Brachos Daf Ches. Yikanes shir shnei psachim v'achar. You should enter an amount of 2 doors and then daven. What does that mean? You should enter an amount of 2 doors. Yesh mefarshim shir shnei psachim d'hainu shmeina tvachim yikanes lifnim. One pshat is, this is the Yerushalmi and the Orchos Chaim, you should enter a shul 8 tvachim. Shelo yeshiv eitzel pesel. Don't stand by the door, because everybody knows that after the coat room, right when you come in the shul is the next most popular spot to daven. Thing is, you're not allowed to daven there. Why? Shenir kamasa yeshuvas beis haknesses. It looks like davening is a pain in the neck. It looks like it's a burden. If that's your set spot, Rabbi Yehuda says, there's not an issue, because it's not that I don't want to come in, that's my set spot. Unless you say, why do you choose that spot as your set spot? But it seems like then it would be okay. V'yesh mefarshim, the Torah brings in the name of Maram Rottenberg, sha'atam b'nei shemabit l'chutzon yachal chavein. If you're right by the door, it's you're checking out what's going on outside. Ulefizem eino pesuch shesarayim kaklum. Accordingly, if it's not open to public domain, then there's no issue. Some say it means you shouldn't start davening right when you get in. You pause a few moments until you start davening. It is correct to be choishesh for all the various explanations of this halacha. Siv katan samachav shir shnei psachim ayin bebach shekasav. The Bach writes the tzarich lasis azara lefnei beis hakneses dugmas ha'ulam. You need to make some kind of lobby before the shul, like the ulam shahayu lefnei ha'heichal. The herech lefarsh v'zeh maimer the shir shnei psachim. The Bach explains this teaching of shnei psachim at length. V'chein kasam Magen Avram. So does the Magen Avram, right? B'chein noagu kayom b'chol makom. This is a minhag everywhere. Ve'al kein toiv lahader lechatchila shloi lehispala ba'azara. Therefore, you need to be careful not to be davening in the lobby, but rather to daven in the shul proper. Yishashir, what's the reason you should wait the amount of time it takes to go to Psachim? So that you should have your mind settled and daven b'kavana. Because if you daven the second you get in, ein daitam you shavas alav. So it means like this: you really should not be walking into a shul when they say b'chol yom avarcheka v'hal Hashem chalel. In other words, you want to get there a few moments before they start, because otherwise your mind is scattered. Mechabdim b'pesach beis hakneses sheikanis hagadol tchila havroi lemezuzah. We do show honor at the entrance of a shul that someone who is greater is allowed. You give them rights of first passage. What about when you leave? The Chidah says there's also a din of kavod. However, the Rambam writes only when you go in. And the Kesef Mishnah says that's what's Mashna Masech Derech Eretz. Okay. A bit more. The beginning of Siv Chaf Aleph. You need to make sure there's no interposition between you and the wall. Nothing should get in between you and the wall. V'davar kavua, something which is permanent, kagain arayin, the ark, v'teva, a bima einam chaytzitzin, is not a chatzitza. Let's do one Mishna Berura. Shelo yehi davar chaytzitzin. Shenemar vayasev Chizkiyahu panav al akir vayispala. Chizkiyahu turned his face to the wall and he davened. Kamakom ein ze ela mitzvah min hamuvchar. This is just the ideal thing to do. V'lesve isura. There's no isser kishatzach lekach mitzadoch hamakom. There's no isser to daven in a spot that there's some separation between you and the wall. It's just the ideal spot is directly in front of a wall. Therefore, if it's not possible to daven in any other way, let's say you have 10 in a room. Not everybody could be by the wall. Don't delay the davening to go to a different room. I mean, I guess the question would be, is another person a hefsek? I understand the Aron's not a hefsek, the Teva is not a hefsek. What about my chair? What about my table? What about Yankel? When we call Makom Yatzim Einav, however, if you're not by the wall, close your eyes, or pray from a book. Don't look away, don't look outside, so that it will not disturb your kavanah. We'll see tomorrow what lamaisa are the things that are considered chatzitza between a person and the wall. Okay, Rabbi Isai, have yourselves an amazing day.